In the depths of the frozen tundra, feminists decided to do the least helpful thing for their cause since Prohibition. They took to the streets en masse, but one woman dared walk among them. One woman learned their ways and didn't take their shit. This summer, angry college girls will walk out of the house with dyed armpits and scream about rape culture, and no one will suggest that they need serious mental help. Tonight we are joined by Lauren Southern, a libertarian candidate who confronted the Slutwalkers in Vancouver, and Jamie, organizer of Gamergate in BC.
Do you want to say hi? Hi, Lauren.
Oh, sorry, just figuring out how to unmute my mic.
Hello. We all have that issue.
Yeah, wow.
It's great to have you.
That was quite the intro. I hope I can live up to that intro. Wasn't quite the frozen tundra, but, you know, close enough.
Yeah, BC is pretty tropical, actually. But, you know, we do have a panel of judges, so we'll give you your score afterwards there, Lauren.
Sounds good. I have seen a few moose, no polar bears, though, so almost there.
Well, as long as you can't see Russia from your house.
Oh, God.
Okay.
So, we gotta start, Allison?
Yeah, we're gonna start. I'm sorry. I'm jumping all over your initiative here, Rachel, but I wanted to talk about the lawsuit and where we're at and what we're doing. And, of course, our choice of legal advisor, Harry Capitco. Harry can represent us as a paralegal in Alberta. However, we're going to be pursuing this in small claims court. This means I could represent myself if need be. There are a few reasons why we'll be pursuing this in small claims court. I don't want to destroy the Expo. There are people who have contributed to creating the Expo community who are not part of the decision to have myself and the Honey Badgers convicted. These people do not deserve to be punished for the actions of a few. Also, the fans who look forward to gathering together in Calgary each year also do not deserve to be punished for the actions of the few. I only want to prevent this from happening to other attendees, artists, and vendors in the future. So we are not going to seek punitive damages in excess of $50,000, and our focus will simply be on preventing future behavior like this from happening and clearing our name. In addition, $30,000 won't get us very far in a higher court in terms of legal fees, and if we did go there, I could be facing being held liable for the Expo's legal fees, which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. I could still be held liable for their legal fees even in small claims court, so I'm putting myself in jeopardy in pursuing a suit against the Expo, and I want to minimize that kind of jeopardy. As much as I love Gamergate and I want to see your voices not censored, I really don't want to have to face being put in the position of paying back hundreds of thousands of dollars that I do not have. I understand and appreciate everyone who contributed to the legal fund, but ultimately I'm the one fighting this, so I will be bearing the brunt of the consequences if it should go south. The reality is I want us to succeed, but I do not want us to succeed a huge amount of money for it. I'd like to go back to the donors in however long this takes. And the other thing with the small claims court is we will get a court date faster than we would in a higher court. I want to be able to go back to the donors and say, hey, we still have some money left. What do you want us to do with it? Do you want us to put it towards building a community that's against censorship? Do you want us to put it towards already existing organizations who fight censorship? Do you want us to keep it and have a legal fund for other groups or people who are facing the same kind of issues that we faced at the Calgary Expo? Or do you want refunds? Just note that the refunds will be minus the financial fees that were taken out of the original amount. But anyway, that's aside the point. And incidentally, this is why the liability that I'm facing now in pursuing this fight is why almost nobody steps up to stop this kind of bullying behavior from organizations like the Calgary Expo. Because it is frightening. If you don't think I'm not scared, I am scared. But I don't want to see this continue to happen. I don't want to see this other organizations like this manner. It needs to stop, and someone needs to stand up to it. Now, why Harry Capitco? 1.5 months ago, when I was facing a wall of silence in terms of trying to find a lawyer, Harry was the one who stepped up to help. Yes, he was disbarred under extremely fishy circumstances. Yes, his record isn't spotless, but he stepped up to help. probably because he's already been knocked down by the system. And after the worst happens, there's nothing left to fear. Harry has fought his whole life for the underdog. He's a Holocaust survivor who fought the system for Marxists. He fought the system for homosexuals when it was still illegal to be one. He's fought for a black nurse who was a victim of racial discrimination. He's even fought to have sexual harassment recognized as a workplace hazard. He isn't just a social justice warrior, he is social justice. He's done more for black people, gay people, socialists, women than any social justice warrior on Twitter combined. And he's certainly experienced more flack for his beliefs than a few mean tweets. And now, right now, social justice warriors are savaging him because he's fighting for us. He's fighting for Honey Badger Radio. He's fighting for Gamergate, against the anti-Gamergaters, against the social justice warriors, because somewhere along the line, they became the system, and we became the underdog. Hypocrisy doesn't even begin to cover these people attacking Harry right now. I probably disagree with almost everything Harry believes in, but I respect the fact that he has put everything on the line for his principles. I respect that. So yeah, Harry is my God. And if it's a mistake, then rest assured, I will be the one who's facing the worst consequences for that mistake. And if you don't like it, you can kiss my ass, because it's my ass that's on the line. Anyway. So,
I love you.
Go back.
I love you, Allison. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Karen. Rachel, do you want to do intro Jamie to talk about? It's hard to change course after that one.
Yes,
so.
Yes, that was actually a really great speech, Allison.
I can't follow that up. That was great.
Yeah, we've got Jamie here for GG in BC, and you want to tell us a little bit about GG in BC? Jamie?
Yeah, absolutely. I won't take up too much time. By the way, do I sound okay? Does this sound
Yes,
good?
you sound just fine.
Okay, perfect. I can't hear myself right now. So, okay. So, GG in BC is obviously a Gamergate meetup, and it's happening in Vancouver, of course, Vancouver, BC, and it'll be on July 4th. It's a social meetup, so there will be drinks, there will be food. It's happening at Mahoney & Sons, Stamps Landing, so just make sure you come to the right one if you are coming, because there's 3 of them, so make sure to write down the Stamps Landing bit. And it is all ages. I made sure of that because I know Gamergate has a lot of teenagers and all that in it, so wanted to be all-inclusive. Let's see what else I have here. If you're planning on coming or need more information, you can talk to me on Twitter. It's just Jamie Schneider, and then my @ is Korig, so K-O-R-I-G. And you can also message the other co-organizer and original creator, Kendra, and her @ is B1N0R1. Have a bit more. Yes, if you do check out my Twitter, my pinned tweet has all the basic information, everything I've said, so if I'm talking too fast or you didn't get all that, don't worry, it's all there. Also, the poster we have is amazing art done by a Twitter user named Aldershot, so you can check that out. It's really pretty. And of course, Badgers, I believe at least some of you are coming.
Yeah, I'm coming. Karen's coming. Rachel's coming.
We're all coming.
Well,
awesome.
Anna's might not be able to make it.
Are you telling me that for the first time ever, Allison, Anna will not be coming?
I'm not touching that one.
I should
way
be
too
showing up
sticky.
as well.
Oh yeah, did we mention that Lauren is going to be coming as well?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Really happy about that as well. So since the Badgers are coming, we do have a table set up for them. So Allison, if you want to sell any comics or any Honey Badger merchandise, you're welcome to bring that. And I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes. We will have a array of merchandise ready for the shilling.
That's awesome.
And hopefully you will bring many towels, because I mean that promises to be rather messy.
Can you guys manufacture trigger warning shirts? I've been looking for one forever.
I could make one.
And everyone can just be walking trigger warnings.
Exactly. I could totally design that, actually. I was thinking about it.
You can put the badger with it, too.
Oh. So Jamie, anything else you want to tell us about this wonderful location, this wonderful locale in beautiful Vancouver, Canada?
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple more things, and I'll let you guys get on with the talk. There is, if you can't make that one and you happen to live in the Victoria area, there is a smaller one that's going to be going on called GG and Vic or VIC, and Kendra is solely doing that one. I believe you guys will be coming to that as well. So if for any reason you can't come to the Vancouver one, there is a Victoria one the evening before. So to get all the details on that, you'll have to contact her, which again is at B1N0R1. And that's pretty much it. So long story short, Victoria is July 3rd and Vancouver is July 4th. And then I'm at Korig, K-O-R-I-G, if you need any more information.
Awesome.
I'd also like to add that Rachel and Brian will be doing sort of an exodus across country. So if you guys want to sit down with the Doge and the Naughty Nerd S somewhere, I believe they'll be going through the U.S. and then a bit through Canada and then popping out in Vancouver. And if you're interested in meeting up with them, I think that they would be open to people who are going to, provide some food along the way.
Yeah, yes, the Great Badger Road Trip. The Great Badger Road Trip.
You guys are killing me. I wish I could come. And obviously, Honey Badgers are amazing and offered me travel expenses. And I'm like still reeling from the Calgary issue with my budget. So I'm like in tears. I wish I could come, but it's just not quite enough in terms of like how my budget has been with cosplay and other things. And like, oh, sounds like so much fun. I wish I was there, but I will be sending my love across the waves and send you my happy vibes.
Yeah, I'm also very poor. I'll probably be making bread to take along with me, so I'll be like just nomming on my bread and things like that, and and stuff and things. So I'm poor. Like donate to my Patreon. I'm such a victim. No, but
I'm sure once you guys show up, people will be buying you many drinks. So you may not get food, but you'll get drunk if you want to.
But we will get plastered. Yes.
They want to get us all hammered and then have their wicked way with us, because that's what gamergaters are. They're just all rapists.
Karen, don't tell the secrets.
Okay.
You're raping me, Karen.
Disregard what I just said. No.
She wasn't supposed to say any of that.
Yeah, no. I've been drinking, so I can't really be trusted. So.
Well, I think she might have infiltrated us as Karen.
Nobody's
She's disguised herself as Karen for decades, just for this moment, to infiltrate this track.
I was waiting for this very moment to infiltrate Honey Badger Radio.
The trick is not to tell people. Didn't we learn anything from Calgary Expo? Come on.
Oh my God.
See, now they're just gonna use this.
Yeah, and the trick to the drinking is beer counts as bread. Seriously, you don't have to eat if you drink beer. It counts as bread.
All right. Hey, actually.
But bread doesn't count as food.
Okay, Anna, if you got like donations from people, you might actually be able to go.
If my Patreon was funded, I would not only reward people for that, but have the funds to actually go to GG and BC as Vivian. Wouldn't that be fun and awesome? So yeah,
also give you one-time donations, perhaps. If you want to see
any kind.
Yeah, do you have like a PayPal thingy?
Yes, I do. I could have a Dwala or a Google Wallet if that works for people, but any kind of donations to Honey Badger PayPal for me can be forwarded to me if that's. Do you guys really want to do that?
That seems a little complicated. You think?
Yeah.
All right. Well, sure. We'll have to do it that way. If you guys want to see Anna Cherry go to the GG and BC event, then you can send me a link or send some donations to honeybadgersradio@gmail.com. That's the PayPal email address, and just make a note that you want it to go to getting our sexy badger to Vancouver.
And a Vivian cosplayer. I will absolutely be in full Vivian gear that you guys did not get a chance to see in the Calgary Expo, so that's also a plus.
Yes.
Cool. All right.
Wait, is this event a cosplay thing?
She just does cosplay whenever. I think
Oh,
she
that's
doesn't
cool.
really need an explicit invitation to do that.
She needs no excuse. She just
Yes.
does it.
Yeah.
Shamelessly.
Fantastic.
Everywhere. Cosplay all over the place.
All right, shall we start our interview?
Yes,
ready?
damn it. Yes. Also, I just want to open the interview by saying that my boyfriend told me to tell Lauren that he thinks she's very cute.
Oh, that's very nice.
I
Yeah.
concur.
I didn't even smack him for saying it either or anything because I think you're kind of cute too. So I think you're very attractive.
Aw.
There you
If
go.
it's any consolation, I think you're hot. So.
Oh, well, that's always nice to hear. You know, when you hit 44 years old, a hobo with twigs in his beard tells you you're pretty, and you're like, yes!
You're 44.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
you're not. You're
If
lying.
everything works out, we need a Lauren Cherry Karen hug in BC. That has to happen.
That would be
Fantastic.
fun.
All right. Well, let's. So tell us a bit about your background and what brought you to where I don't know the Libertarian Party and your beliefs about in politics. And is that too vague? Do you need something a little more specific?
Wait, no, I mean, I can tell you about my background, but it's a lot less interesting than you may think. I'm probably a lot more similar to a lot of the people listening to this podcast than they think. I usually just sit around playing League and reading fantasy books. But on the side of that, I also am very into politics, obviously. I used to be a big Tumblr blogger, and that's kind of why I got into the anti-feminism side of things, because nobody on Tumblr made any sense to me, any sense at all. And I was also very into politics throughout high school. I read a lot of political satire. Big reader. I think that's what got me into politics. And then I became a political sciences major when I went to university, which was kind of what got me involved with the Libertarian Party, as well as involved with Rebel Media. I went to a conference of theirs last summer, I believe it was, met Ezra Levant, and a few months ago he asked me to volunteer for Rebel. So that's how I ended up here, where I am. Kind of a quick explanation, but...
Cool. Thanks. What made you aware of men's issues in the first place?
Well, I didn't really understand the narrative that feminists were portraying. I always thought it was a bit of an exaggeration. I remember the first time I ever went on TV was when I was 17 years old. I was on a political youth panel, and I was at the election office. That I was volunteering for the Conservatives, which obviously I'm a libertarian now, but I was beside a male, and they were asking for interviews from people on TV, and the guy beside me had been in university, very educated individual, and I was a high school student. And when the interviewer came up to us, he asked me to go on TV and do the interview, and before we went and did the interview, he whispered to me, "You do realize that we are only interviewing you because you are a young and you are a female." And I started to think, I was like, I've been hearing all about male privilege, but I'm starting to see these little things in my life where I am getting advantages over men that are far more qualified than me just for being female. And obviously I'm working against them now, but before I would just, I think a lot of people take them for granted, and I started realizing them at a young age, I think.
Okay. What would you consider the most important men's issues?
The most important men's issues? There are a lot of them, but I think that affirmative action is one of the biggest problems for me. Also, equal treatment in courts and genital integrity, those are probably the biggest ones for me.
Okay. Did you find the Libertarian Party appealing in terms of men's issues or any other reason? And could you explain that a little bit further?
I think so. Well, obviously the Libertarian Party is for equality. They're not for pseudo-equality or equity rather, where the government is controlling everything and trying to lift some groups up and bring others down. The Libertarian Party would obviously not be okay with affirmative action because that is government coming in, and we don't want the government coming in and, I don't know, changing the rules from equality to equity. That's not a libertarian principle. They're totally against affirmative action, and obviously for equality of crime sentences, and they see women and men as the same. I think a lot of people see them as different interest groups, whereas the Libertarian Party treat them the same under the court of law, under jobs and education. And yeah, what Karen just said in the chat, government interference in people's decisions, they don't want that. Whereas you've got the SJW crowd and other parties that are trying to appeal to the SJW and politically correct narrative that are, if they say anything that, they kind of have to keep pushing affirmative action or they'll be called sexist and misogynistic. The Libertarian Party is not afraid of saying they're for equality, whereas it seems a lot of other parties are afraid of not following feminist narrative. Even the conservatives, they don't speak out against affirmative action. You just don't see that.
I gotcha. So is that one of the reasons why you moved away from a conservative position to a more libertarian position?
There are a lot of reasons I kind of moved away from it. I'm more socially liberal, I guess, than I am conservative. I think people should be able to do whatever they want, and that goes for businesses too. If business want to hire the people who are the best at the job instead of having 50% women and 50% men, why not? If they're, and naturally businesses will pick the people who are best for their job, whether they're a woman or a man. It doesn't make sense to have a sexist market if a woman comes and applies for a job and she is the best at that job. So I don't see the reason for that controlling government unless it is truly a fact that women aren't performing as well as men are. Right? But yeah, that's that. Socially, I think people should be able to do whatever they want, especially businesses, especially individuals. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as it's not harming others, the non-aggression policy.
Yeah, certainly they should also abide by their contractual
yes.
And also consumer protections, and not completely everything that they want. But
oh yeah, still for government. I just think we need to bring government back down to more localized. I don't think everything should be in the federal government's control. I don't think the federal government can solve problems that a small community is having. It's just they don't really know what the problem is.
That's true. I'd actually find that very true in our own community. There's decision making on a federal level, or not even a federal, provincial level, that sort of filtered down to our community, which made the hospital that they're building less useful for us.
Mm-hmm.
That
they don't know what's going on at that level.
Yeah, I know.
And you do need a federal government to control provincial governments and provincial governments to control smaller municipalities, but I think a lot of the power should be with the smaller governments, because you're right, they know what's going on, they know the individual problems, and the people can go and actually speak to their representatives and the people who are passing these laws. I don't have enough money to go fly out to Ottawa, and they wouldn't let me in the Parliament building even if I did. Right?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'd be let in either, so join the I don't think anybody here would be.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's that's the biggest thing for me. I just want better government, and I think that smaller government and more localized government will do that. I think big government has had a lot of obvious problems that most people can agree on.
Yeah. So let's see. When did you become aware of the existence of the Toronto Slutwalk? Was there an interesting story behind that at all?
Oh, you mean the Vancouver?
Oh, yeah, no, Toronto Slutwalk. My apologies, the Vancouver Slutwalk.
Yeah, no problem. Well,
they're all over. So.
Actually, I found out about it through my university's women's group, which obviously I have to follow. So I'm a little bit of a troll. But yeah, I found out about it. No,
you're not
a
troll. Well, you're in good company, because I think we're all trolls of one stripe or another.
If keeping track of what people are saying in your name makes you a troll, then we're all trolls.
Yeah. No, but I kind of saw it, and I'm like, I obviously when you see a Slutwalk, you know what's going to go on there. You've seen the pictures, you've seen the videos. I had to go. There wasn't a chance I wasn't going to. And I wasn't sure if I was going to participate and just interview people. In fact, the sign idea kind of came up right before the Slutwalk, where I was like, you know what, I think this would actually have an interesting impact. I wasn't sure if they would react to the sign or if they would just ignore it, but I still think that my idea behind the sign, "There is no rape culture in the West," was to make sure that there was a different opinion being shown there in the pictures and the videos that you always see online. You always see these photos of just all of these women that all are repeating their views back at each other. And I just wanted there to be shown publicly that there are people with different views. There are people that don't buy into the feminist narrative. And I think I did that more effectively than I thought I would. It appeared all over the news, and I was kind of shocked. It's been a bit of a stressful thing for me, but I'm happy that I kind of got that word out that, no, not all women agree with this crazy narrative.
Right, so in regards to the news coverage, was it mostly positive? Was it mostly negative, neutral? How would you describe your experience with the press over this issue?
Well, I think they had a hard time twisting the story to make me look negative because all of the footage that was put out kind of made the people at the Slutwalk look a little crazy, and I think the media had a hard time defending them, but it was still kind of turned, it wasn't for me in a lot of cases. Luckily, I had Repizion, I think that's his name, on YouTube, support me, Goodfellow on YouTube, support me, I'm trying to remember the girl who wrote an article about me. I'll find her name and post it later. I had a few people write positive articles about me. The more negative stuff I got was on the individual level. It was the mass Twitter horde of feminists that all kind of attacked me on the same day. The horde of feminists that went on Tumblr and kind of got the ranks together to attack me. They created the petition to get me kicked out of the Libertarian Party, which created a whole situation with the party that was just ridiculous. So they did. It was more on an individual level than media that kind of was negative.
Can you give us some examples of the kind of stuff that they were saying about you, this Twitter feminist hate mob?
Yeah, I should have had it in front of me. I can post stuff later, obviously. But they kept sending this huge letter written by the girl in the black bikini that was speaking with the word slut on her chest that accused me of silencing women, screaming over them, telling them that they were never raped, telling them, basically saying that I was a misogynistic, sexist, rape apologist, like just ridiculous stuff that I absolutely didn't do. And most people probably have seen my video of what really happened at the Slutwalk disproving that. But they just had no shame in completely lying, no shame. And if you read the letter that she wrote to me, or that they wrote and sent to every single member of the Libertarian Party, not just the head, they sent it to every single member of the Libertarian Party they could find, and friends of mine. The girl in it literally said that she was throwing up, she was so triggered. Like, I could not believe what I was reading, and that's the kind of, yeah.
I knew that would get you out, Karen.
Just to get my laugh on the air.
Oh.
She's like, I could going up all night.
I could feel your energy over that one, Karen. I could feel it. Yeah, that's pretty.
I'm gonna have to send you guys the letter because it is the most hilarious thing you will ever read. Like, it was a bit scary at first because they had sent it to every single member of the party and it had all these lies in it, but she goes on and talks about how she felt like a mama lioness protecting the wolf pack against me, and I was like this evil predator. You have to watch Goodfellow's video. He just totally rips it apart. But
did you say mama lioness protecting her wolf cubs?
Yes, that's
make sense. That analogy is invalid.
No, none of it made sense. And
the mama lion would have eaten the wolf cubs probably. Dan.
That makes a lot more sense, actually.
Yeah, and
but
who hunts
continue.
a wolf pack? No, but she went on and she even wrote in the letter saying that I had asked them to check their privilege, and I've done a video on why people should not ask others to check their privilege. So just the most ridiculous claims, just so ridiculous. I obviously got more letters accusing me of being a child pornographer. That was the big one. I asked a few ladies at the Slutwalk to do an interview with me, and their parents were there. They were 13, 14, and 15, I think, and they were in their bras out there. Their parents came with them and supported them, and I just got their audio, and I didn't use the footage at all because they asked me not to, even though there is absolutely no law against using minors' footage on a public forum. I spoke to a lawyer about it, actually, so I totally had the legal right to use the footage, but I didn't out of respect for their request, and I still got called a child pornographer. I still got called a pedophile. I still got called I still was told that I wasn't respecting their consent. It was insane, just insane.
But what about the people who are basically using these young girls to perpetuate their ideology, using these young girls' sexuality, no less, to perpetuate their ideology?
Yeah, these are 13-year-old girls.
They get a free pass,
huh? Bras. Like,
unbelievable. Can I ask you a little bit more about what happened at the Slutwalk for those viewers who aren't actually haven't watched the footage?
Yeah.
How you approached protesting the Slutwalk, what you brought in terms of a message. Let's start there. What did you bring? What kind of message did you want to bring to the Slutwalk? What did you bring?
Honestly, I initially just wanted to question them. I wanted to ask them if they believed in rape culture, if they genuinely believed Canada and the U.S. was a rape culture. So I kind of went there, and first of all, I went there and I interviewed a few people. In fact, every interview is shown in the video that I did. I only interviewed a couple people and asked them, do you actually think we live in a rape culture, seeing as the laws don't support rapists, the majority of people hate rapists. Rape is, even if you make a joke about rape, you'll get fired from your job. Like, I wouldn't consider that a rape culture, so I just wanted to see what they would see, how they would twist it, because I know a lot of feminists are trying to use the sociological definition of rape culture, which means if a guy is whistling at you, it's rape culture, which I totally don't agree with. I think that is trivializing the word rape. So that was my initial goal, and I brought the sign as well just to, for what I was saying earlier, have that media impact to show there are women who don't agree with the feminist narrative. There are women who don't agree with exaggerating to push a political ideology. And I know there are a lot who agree with me because I've gotten their messages on Facebook, I've gotten their messages on Twitter, I'm talking to them right now. And I think that needs to be in the media. I think that needs to be in the news. I think that a lot of people are too scared to speak up against these feminists because they're a hate mob. If I didn't have that footage that I had to prove that I was innocent of the crimes things they had accused me of, I don't know what would, I might have been kicked out of the Libertarian Party. So they are scary to go up against, and I kind of decided I needed to take a stand. Thank God I had the cameraman with me because I did not expect what happened after the event to happen, but I don't know, I guess I was a little too gutsy and kind of got fried in the end, but I think it was worth it. I think putting out that message that there are people who disagree with this narrative was worth it, and I think what you ladies have done with Honey Badger Radio, it has been an amazing message for that as well, and I think there are more women and men who need to speak up.
Well, thanks.
As scary as it is.
Well, it is pretty scary. And I remember I didn't actually think necessarily the worst would happen, but it was a little nerve-wracking to put the Gamergate flag up at the Calgary Expo because I didn't know what would happen.
You guys got a lot of backlash for that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Anyhow,
I wanted to also say too, you sounded really nervous when you were speaking in that panel. Like you don't tend to sound quite that circumspect. You don't always choose your words quite so carefully. But you could tell that when you were speaking, you knew you were in hostile territory, and you knew you had to be extra careful and all of that. But that's one thing that I just wanted to make a point briefly about, because not everybody might know it. Because at Canada, I think as far as I know, every single jurisdiction in Canada is considered a one-party jurisdiction, which means that even if Lauren was in a private residence, she could legally record any interaction with anybody without informing them that they're being recorded at all. And that recording would be admissible in a court of law, and if somebody defamed her, she could present that as evidence that she was not guilty of whatever she was being accused of. You don't have to, as long as one person in the group being recorded knows that the conversation is being recorded, and usually that's the person who's recording it, then you don't need anybody's permission to record them. Not at all. And the only type of recording that's illegal in Canada is if you are recording clandestinely recording two people having a private conversation that you're not a part of. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that heads up, Karen. Were you at all scared during the Slutwalk for your safety, Lauren?
There was one point where I just had a little bit of fear, but I had two guys with me that were kind of bigger guys that I knew there might be a slight chance that they would get pushy or violent. I wasn't that scared going in, but there was this one girl who kind of beefed up her arms and said, "I'm going to punch you out," while running towards me, while kind of skipping towards me, and I just called over my cameraman. I was like, Mark, and he came running over. She didn't do anything, so it was just kind of all bark, no bite. It wasn't, I wasn't too scared with the guys that were with me. They were all bark. What I was more scared was the defamation, because that is more so in the feminist characteristic, the lies and the defamation, than the actual attacking.
Oh, we're quite
Which can
familiar
be
with that.
I would rather be punched than be defamed, have my character defamed, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a very uncomfortable feeling knowing that people think that you're a harasser or an abuser or an infiltrator.
I had a lot of people delete me off Facebook. I did, and they would comment they would say, "I can't believe you screamed over these women sharing their rape stories. I can't believe you told them they weren't raped," and none of that happened, and they still deleted me off Facebook. I don't feel that bad that they did, because obviously they weren't the most open-minded people, and they obviously didn't care about me that much or my opinion, so it wasn't that depressing. It's just amazing and scary how easily people will believe their lies without any evidence, and they never have to provide evidence that it happened. It's always the person who's accused who has to provide evidence that they didn't do what they were accused of, which is insane. It's a guilty until proven innocent. It's I don't understand how our media court works.
Okay, so about the petition, what ended up happening with the petition and with the Libertarian government, or sorry, Libertarian Party?
Luckily, the Libertarian Party did support me. They are for freedom of speech, so it's a little funny seeing the feminists trying to get me kicked out for exercising my freedom of speech. They obviously don't understand what libertarians are. Of course, we've got a diverse group of people in the Libertarian Party. Some people that are more left-wing, SJW-like, not quite SJW, but and they were a little pissed off with me. But luckily, there was an overall respect for freedom of speech within the group, and I didn't cross any barriers other than if I had hurt someone, if I had actually been telling women they hadn't been raped, or screaming over them during their stories, like that might have been crossing the line, but I really didn't cross any lines that would be considered extremely offensive for the party. I exercised my freedom of speech, and that is, exercising freedom of speech and giving different opinions is obviously very triggering for feminists, and so it may have been triggering for them, but overall the Libertarian Party is very tolerant of freedom of speech. They're far more tolerant than SJWs can ever pretend to be.
All right, thanks. Let's see, some last questions. What do you think that the Slutwalks? Why do you think that the Slutwalks exist? What's your personal opinion?
Oh man, why do Slutwalks exist? I think that we live not in a rape culture, but I would say there are groups of people that live in a victim culture, especially the Tumblrites and SJWs and the people that show up at this walk. They want to be seen as victims here, and if they exaggerate what's going on here, they will seem like more victims, and these women will get more benefits, more people will feel bad for them, more people will treat them like they are entitled and special snowflakes and all this. And I think it's also, I honestly think it's attention seeking, a lot of it. I want to go out with a sign in my bra and be part of something that I'm pretending is the civil rights movement. It's a feel-good attention-seeking victim event.
Well, I mean, you're always going to get cheered for saying rape is wrong. I mean, like,
exactly.
That's always going to get applause. Oh my goodness, rape is wrong. Woo!
So it's crazy that they, if they actually lived, that's what I was saying, if they actually lived in a rape culture, they would not be able to have a slut walk. The only reason they do the slut walk is because they don't live in a rape culture, and they live in a culture where people will applaud them for saying rape is wrong, and they know they'll get positive attention for what they're doing.
And they also know they will not be judged on their physical appearance, and so they can be free of their own self-imposed anti-sexuality, so they can actually go out in their bra and panties, like everyone should be allowed to do, but they can actually let go of their objectification bullshit for a second when it suits them. And they also know that nobody's going to judge them because they're not always bikini body ready, but they, don't care because, well, you're not supposed to make fun of them like that. So it's definitely a feel-good thing, for sure, from a variety of angles.
So I think slut walks exist because feminists figured out booth babes are very effective, and this is the only way they could have them without acknowledging that that's what they're doing.
Yeah. I actually think it's a kind of sad thing to do, to put these women as these spokeswomen for people who have been assaulted and raped, because I don't think a lot of people, I don't know, but I know a decent amount of women that have been brutally raped that weren't being sluts in the least. They were just they were just raped, and I don't think running around in bras and bikinis represents those people. It doesn't represent the healing process that they're going through, especially when they didn't do anything that would make them more susceptible to being raped.
What I find interesting about the slut walks is that when you have the survivor testimony and they bring the male audience members, they're actually bringing, they're casting men there, they're objectifying men down to this role of rapist, which in itself, it strikes me as being sexual abuse. And I mean, to put men into that position of being cast in that manner, I think is a form of sexual abuse. Judging from the fallout from being falsely accused, like a lot of it is very similar to the fallout from being raped.
And they're equating guys whistling to them as being rape. They're equating guys flirting with them as being rape. And these guys, a lot of guys that flirt and whistle, I personally don't mind it. I will wink back at them. I'll whistle.
Yeah, well, wait till those women hit age 44. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, but it's they're trying to co-opt language is what they're doing, and I think that's another big problem I have with the slut walk is they've tried to use the word rape and culture to push their narrative. They've tried to change the word consent. They've tried to change the word sexist, misogynist, all to fit with an exaggerated example. So a woman not getting hired for a job and a man getting hired instead is sexist. A guy whistling at you is rape culture. You regretting it in the morning is never having consented. And they're taking all this language and butchering it and causing all of these people who have never committed these crimes to fall under that category of misogynist, sexist, rapist, and all these other things. And it's a very, very scary thing because universities and supposed intellectuals are picking up on this and perpetuating it and teaching it. And I think we're going to, I don't know if we're going to move more towards this culture that actually believes the definitions that feminists and people at these slut walks are perpetuating. And if they do start to believe it, we are living in scary times, and I would suggest no man date a feminist. That is just asking for trouble.
Yeah, the thing that struck me about this, and I remember when you were talking to the girl who was there in the in the police tape, and you're asking her like, how do you think this helps real victims? And that's the thing. I don't think this really does help rape victims in the least. I think this is probably the least useful thing that you could do for victims. Like, period. And that's one of the things I would like to ask you. Like, what do you think? I know what I think we could do to help actual victims, but I would ask you what you think.
Why not?
Probably something more useful.
Yeah, why not donate the money they spent driving there to women's shelters? Like,
yes.
Personally, I think the biggest thing that we need to do for women is empowerment. I think that, well, I know that has a bad connotation, but I think we just need to teach women, instead of feeling entitled to a job, earn that job. Empower yourself, and actually empower yourself. Don't use this feminist redefinition of the word. actually just become a strong, confident person that isn't a victim, that isn't triggered all the time by all these things, that can manage to get over tough times in your life or go for support for that. And there are so many real world things we can do that aren't running around in bikinis and bras to help women. And I don't like, there are already a lot of women's shelters, there are already a lot of women's initiatives, so that's why I focus more on the men's side of things currently. But there are a lot of positive things that these women who are more, who are on the feminist side of things could do to actually help women instead of just perpetuate this victim narrative and run around in bikinis asking for attention.
Not to mention they're not elevating any of the actual victims. It's entirely self-serving. That's my bigger complaint about feminism and in general. The third wave is people sitting with their lattes tweeting, and what are they doing to actually help women who are actually suffering in the third world? What are they doing to help the women in their own community, even if those are, bad things are happening in their community sometimes. Although we do know that in the Western world, the bad thing that's happening is the guy asking if the girl bought a comic for her boyfriend or not. So, I mean, there's a big difference in the level of suffering. And they're not doing anything to help any other women that are actually suffering anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Make your point, Karen.
I wanted to actually mention, because on the topic of empowerment, we actually had a study reported on the effects of a new program that was developed by a professor in Canada that teaches women to recognize coercive situations, get past roadblocks to resist unwanted sexual behaviors, and practice verbally resisting the behavior or actions. Her idea was that the more confident and sure women are of what they desire and what they want, the easier it is to say, no, I'm not going to do that. And there wouldn't be that prolonged pressure that results in sexual assault or clearly unwanted sex. Part of the training focuses on positive sexuality education, because the more women understand their own desires and values, the faster they are at detecting that someone is trying to coerce them to do something they don't want. One participant in the program praised it because getting in tune with what you're comfortable with allows you to have confidence in yourself and your own sexuality. If you already know what your limits are, you're not as likely to get coerced into things that you're not interested in doing. For harder cases, guys who won't take no for an answer, the program also teaches self-defense. Now, this program has been demonstrated to cut the number of rapes in half. In half. Women who have gone through this training have half the rate of rape as the general population. And guess who has a huge problem with this training program? Guess who? I'll give you 3
I can't imagine.
The first 2 don't count.
Oh, man. Well, I can only imagine feminists.
You know,
I've had that
directly impact on my life. I've actually been criticized for having defended myself against an attempted rapist because it creates this idea, according to feminists, it creates this idea that other women who were unsuccessful or unable or chose not to fight back are guilty of something and responsible for their own rapes. I was supposed to actually not defend myself and let it happen because other women might feel bad about not being able to defend themselves.
I was not only not supposed to resist, but I wasn't supposed to ever write about it and say that the mere act of resisting helps you maintain a sense of agency throughout.
You're not allowed to be strong because it denies other women the right to not be as strong as you are, or to not be successful, or to be in a situation, to be considered or not be treated as guilty for being in a situation that's different from the one you were in. It's insane. It's like they don't have any sense of nuance. They don't have any capability of understanding that every incident that happens is different from every other incident that happens.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing is that I've found in my discussions with them that there is something that they consider that's worse than rape, and that's victim blaming. They would see every single woman raped brutally to death rather than acknowledge that there's anything to prevent it, because that would be victim blaming. And I'm giving it a little hyperbole there, but it's that's really their priority, is that they want to prevent victim blaming over preventing rape, and that is morally bankrupt.
Well, yeah, it's more important to them to be able to continue their narrative than it is for them to actually protect women from being rape victims or from being harmed in any way. It doesn't matter to them if we get hurt. It matters to them if they can use us to advocate for more political power and more money and more administrative strength, more policy making capability. They don't really care whether they actually prevent rape or whether they actually protect women at all. And it's so sick. And it's like she was talking about, like Lauren was talking about earlier, regarding them accusing her of silencing them. That's very, very typical of feminists and their hypocrisy. What you have there is they are saying that a woman does not have the right to expect to not be silenced herself. A woman refusing to be silenced so that feminists can talk over them in her name is accused of silencing other women. I mean, the sense of entitlement there is astounding, that they believe that they have the right to not only speak in your name, but demand that you shut up so they can do it. That you don't have your own experiences, that you don't speak up for yourself. You can't do that and have feminists leave you alone. And it's, a lot of it all falls back on this belief that they perpetuate. Everything that happens to women, they consider that to happen because they're women. And they don't think that about men. They don't think that things that happen to men happen because they're men, unless they're beneficial, and then they'll say it's privilege. But they want to be able to attribute all things that we experience to our gender. And they want to be able to narrow it all down to that. And they want to be able to claim that we all have the same experiences and that we all have the same lack of capability. And they can't do that if we are all individuals and we do not act as the monolith that they claim that we are not when they get criticized for their behavior and start nay-faulting at us.
So I wanted to ask Lauren, because we were talking about feminists silencing women because they have a different experience than the one that's convenient to the feminist narrative. So they were silencing you during after the Slutwalk, I assume, by saying that you were silencing other women. Sure, go ahead.
They legitimately tried to hide my sign when I was just standing there silently. They all, when the media cameras turned to take pictures of me and look at me, you hear one of the girls in the video say, "Can you please focus on the speaker?" And you also will see them trying to walk in front of me and hide me from cameras and hide me from the crowd with their signs, lifting their signs up. So I have no idea what they are talking about with silencing other women, because the only silencing that was done at that walk was against me. I would have remained silent the entire time had anyone not come up and spoke to me.
I think that what they mean is that by having a separate opinion or a different opinion, their opinion doesn't have preeminence. It isn't the only opinion that's allowed, which means that you've effectively silenced it, even though all you've done is offered an alternative one.
Well, essentially, it's the same idea as facts are triggering to feminists. When you disagree with them and so blatantly say something that is true, they feel silenced because their argument or opinion suddenly is less valid. If people look at my sign and consider, maybe there isn't a rape culture here, what they're perpetuating, their extremist stuff, becomes less valid to people looking at and hearing a different opinion. So I think that's what they may perceive as silencing, which is scary for them, I guess. It's scary for people disagreeing with them. For them, they feel like they're losing control. And you look at what happened when I just held my sign there silently. As Rachel's saying in the chat, I derailed the whole Slutwalk just by having a different opinion.
Yep.
Well, you're essentially forcing them to defend their beliefs, right? When you provide a counter argument, you're forcing them to defend their beliefs, and if their beliefs are indefensible, if they're, sort of this woo-woo, unfalsifiable, nebulous, rape culture is everything, and oh, hey, people who don't believe in rape culture are actually evidence that rape culture exists. Like these circular, bizarre, freaking religious arguments that they use, they can't defend those in the presence of a counter argument. So literally, I think that on some level, maybe they know that their arguments are indefensible, and so any counter argument that's allowed to be freely spoken is seen as silencing them and making it impossible for them to spread their message.
Okay, I know that I actually think that this is a really good point, unless Lauren wants to have a final word on any of the things that we discussed to start to move into our news segments. Did you have a final word at all?
I just wanted to reply to Karen quickly. It was actually hilarious. I looked at the Slutwalk Vancouver page, and they were posting a bunch of stuff about me, the petition against me, and someone commented, "Can we use this as an example of rape culture?" And the Slutwalk page replied, "Yes, absolutely. This is proof of rape culture." So it's literally clear that they're using those circular arguments. It's just they've got this confirmation bias.
And Satan planted the fossil record just to shake people's belief in God, right? They always have that's how it works, right? So,
well, hell, all feminist ideology is based on circular reasoning. Period.
Mm-hmm.
They start with the axiom, and everything works its way back to the axiom.
And anything
presuppositionalism.
Anything that questions a lack of facts or research is derailing.
And derailing is basically
sea lioning.
Derailing is basically feminist for don't confuse me with the facts. I have already made up my mind.
I was just in a meeting with my feminist or women's group on campus, and I had to leave the group unfortunately yesterday because they decided they wanted to make it a feminist-only group instead of just a women's group. Because they said, after having a conversation with them, they decided that I had to try and explain to them why different ideas and opinions are sometimes a good idea to make sure you question your beliefs and grow your beliefs and are focusing on the right things. Test your theories. Right. And the example I used was, hey, if you guys wanted to go to an event and say someone suggested Coney 2012 for a fundraiser for that, it would probably be a good idea if someone came along and said, hey, this is actually a scam and we should put our efforts into something else. And their reply to that was, Coney 2012 is very real and I'm triggered and offended that you would suggest it isn't. And I tried to explain to them that it was just try to take the analogy, and they replied with, that analogy doesn't make sense. We want this. They were nodding their heads when I said, okay, so you just want to be a hug box that repeats your own views back at you, and they were like, yes. So I got up and I left the meeting. And those are the feminist groups on campus right now.
Oh my God! And they're not. It's not just these kids, right? It's their professors who are feeding that. And I mean, like, there's a whole host of tools, intellectual, philosophical tools that they've designed that are so flexible and so far-reaching as to be completely incoherent, but have been granted a patina of legitimacy in academia. Things like problematization, which is essentially the legitimating of ad hominem, and standpoint theory, which is essentially the assertion that there is no reality and therefore anything that anybody says can be truthful, even if it directly contradicts all the evidence. So you have all of these philosophical tools that they can use to essentially kind of buy their way out of having to explain themselves. Right? I didn't make an ad hominem attack. I just problematized your statement.
Yeah. Or I didn't actually silence you. You silenced me by existing.
Because that's my point of view. Standpoint theory. There you go.
Yeah. So Lauren, we're probably going to move to our news items. Rachel,
stick around.
Yeah. If you want to stick around, you're welcome to, and you can discuss these items with us.
I'll stick around.
Yeah, and if you have any
Excellent.
final statements or about, I guess, anything that we talked about in the interview portion while we're waiting for Rachel to return from wherever she went to, feel free to expound.
Honestly, just last words. I'm kind of torn on this because I do want to see more people being active and speaking out against feminists and not letting them take control of the narrative and taking control of the culture. But I also want to warn people, be very, very careful when dealing with them. Make sure you bring cameras. Make sure you bring recording devices if you are going to go into their territory, because if I didn't have that proof, I could have lost my candidacy. I could have lost a lot more friends on Facebook than I did, because they will lie. They're natural liars. It's just it's part of the feminist narrative. You have to deny a lot of facts to believe in it. So just be very careful, because it's a really scary and depressing thing, seeing people have their lives torn apart, seeing people falsely accused of rape and all these things. By experiencing it yourself, which I'm sure a lot of the individuals in this chat have, is devastating, especially if you can't defend yourself with footage or evidence. So just be careful, but speak up and know that you have support behind you. Know that you've got a Twitter army, you've got honey badgers, you've got a lot of people on Reddit that do support you. So yeah, just be careful.
Well, I have a question. Laura, so what is your main and which lane do you prefer?
Top and Aurelia.
Awesome answer.
Yourself?
Middle Morgana or support Morgana.
Nice. Okay, can you play with me? Can we actually play together?
Fuck yes.
Nice.
I'm sending my summoner name in a chat thing.
Perfect. Dude, I've got King Rammus. Oh, just gonna take this moment to brag.
The Doge says what?
That was so nuts. DJ Sona.
Nobody understood. Well, yeah, this became the nerd
What's going on? What's going on?
Sorry, guys, we're speaking our own language.
Yeah, you derailed. Let's get to the news items.
Okay.
Well, so there actually was some derailing.
Yes.
Sorry, it's just what I do, apparently.
Okay, Rachel, start with the stuff on sexual assault survivors, male sexual assault survivors in Sweden. I think that's relevant.
Yes, it's very relevant to your interests, Alison. Sweden opening center for male rape victims. Hell has seemingly frozen over because a hospital in Sweden is opening a center to treat male victims of rape and sexual assault. I can't pronounce this name. Söderskudhust. I'm murdering this, like all the people who are from Sweden who
Söderskudhust?
I can't pronounce it.
Just move on.
Yeah, one of the largest hospitals in Stockholm has a walk-in unit for victims of rape, treating between 600 and 700 victims a year. From October on, their emergency center will now be open to men as well. Lottie Hellstrom, a senior physician at the hospital, says that she feels that this move for inclusion is important and that the topic is extremely taboo. Quote, the general perception is that men cannot be raped. In studies, the health effects are shown to be greater for men, both in terms of physical health and mental health. There is a greater risk of a raped man getting post-traumatic stress disorder, unquote. Another spokesperson said, quote, there are myths about masculinity that make it difficult for men who have been sexually traumatized to talk about their experiences. A clinic focusing on men who have been sexually abused will contribute to the awareness of experiences of sexual abuse among men and make it more possible to meet men's needs in a very exposed situation, unquote. How bad is it when Sweden manages to be more sensible than the rest of the world? I guess the question on everyone's mind is, how long before other parts of the world follow suit and recognize male victims of sexual assault? How long before people see this as a much-needed service in every community?
That's a pretty sad question.
I have one other question. Are they, is this open to all male victims of rape? Are they actually calling it rape when a woman does it, or are they?
Yes.
Is this this is not another feminist? Men can rape men too thing, is it?
As far as I know, this is like anybody who's been raped. Anyone. Like
this is good.
I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be a backlash or anything like that. I mean, it is Sweden, but I would imagine that this is actually a move in the right direction.
So
Well, it'd be kind of hard for there to be a backlash, even in an incredibly feminist country. It would be really hard for there to be a backlash against this without somebody being able to come out and say, "My God, you guys are bigoted." But I would love to see other countries pick up the ball on this. Instead, I think in the UK they just cut funding for organizations that support male victims. And now, granted, those, if I understand correctly, the organizations whose fundings were cut in the UK are more focused on male victims of male perpetrators than female. But I didn't get to participate. I didn't get time to participate in the Reddit discussion about it. It took place about a month before feminists wrote a news article claiming that men's rights activists were unaware of the news article, because they apparently don't keep track of Reddit. But it looked to me like it was an overall cut, and there were cuts to other organizations across the board, the austerity cuts that took place. But the organizations that support male victims were cut to zero in the UK.
Well, and here's the thing
That's
too.
sad.
This occurred a year after it had been recommended to the council that the funding be increased because reports of men who, made by men who had been raped, the services, the people going to access those services had increased by 120%.
Yeah.
So, they were recommended to increase the funding. The funding was not that big to begin with. I think it was only something like £48,000 a year for this one center, and then it got slashed to zero.
And there is a petition to get it back, but apparently feminists are so hateful and so angry and so anti-male that they couldn't support restoring the funding to this organization without making their entire effort all about accusing men's rights activists of not doing it. That they cared more about using it against men's rights activists, using an example of why we exist, the fact that the government doesn't care about male victims, as an example of why we shouldn't exist. They cared more about that than they did about actually getting the funding restored. And so their entire effort, they derailed their own effort by making it about us instead of making it about the victims. It's just one of the sickest, saddest things I've ever seen. It's come out of the feminist movement. Not the sickest, saddest. I think that prize has to go to Mary Koss, who actually claimed that it's not rape when a woman rapes a man because reasons. But
no, not because reasons. Yeah, not because reasons. Because he actually wanted it. He just didn't realize he wanted it. He was ambivalent.
Yeah, all that shit.
That's
the same
why.
thing that they say about female victims of lesbian rape. That we're just confused about our own sexuality, and if we really thought about it, we would like it. I mean, it's it makes you want to.
Of course you would.
Scream.
Well, if it's rape, then it's a good rape, right? According to you.
Yes, it's just wonderful, delicious, good rape. Yeah. And of course they don't feel the least bit bigoted for saying stuff like that. But yeah, the idea that the rest of the world might pick up on this and actually run with it, it would be great. I would love to see other countries, other areas start actually supporting male victims, particularly male victims of female rapists, because male victims of male rapists are at least getting some support. Male victims of female rapists get zero. They get even less support than, like, some people can acknowledge a female victim of a female rapist because, if you're straight, you obviously didn't want it. But the idea that a man wouldn't, like, even a gay man who gets raped by a woman can't get support from the majority of the population, and particularly from the majority of authorities and services. They don't care. They don't do anything for them. And that does need to change.
Well, at the risk of being accused of giving in to my addiction, I mean, I'm arguing with people on an internet movie database whether or not it counts as rape or at least sexual assault for a man to have said no by redressing himself in the face of a woman undressing him, and then her continuing to insist upon sex in a situation where she's giving him no other option to control her behavior, which at the time was putting him in legal jeopardy, then submitting to her sexual advances. And I'm having to argue with people that is actually sexual abuse.
It's relevant, therefore it's not giving into your addiction, even though it comes from the television show that you're addicted to.
Yes, but it's like I can't, and these women who are arguing against this have the audacity to talk about sexism. So I know that they are feminist inclined. So at the one hand, if it was him doing it to this female character, they would be the first to cry rape. But when it's a woman doing it to a man, oh no, it's not the same. He's big enough, he could have pushed her off. Well, the problem is that he had to control her behavior because he was putting him in legal jeopardy. And the only way that she was giving him, the only option to control her behavior was to submit to her sexually.
Not to mention the fact that a man is not socially allowed to defend himself against a female attacker. And it's so prominent and so bad in our society. It's such a pervasive taboo that a man who is 5'7" and 120 pounds can be considered violent for pushing a woman away from him who is beating on him when she's over 6 feet tall and over 200 pounds. I have seen that happen. I have seen a man in that situation be accused of violence when the person doing the beating was the woman, and all he did was put his hands up. So it's insane to think, to argue that if a guy didn't physically resist, not only would feminists not put up with that argument, in fact, they get mad at women who do physically resist because that shames women who don't or can't or won't or whatever. But the idea that they would say a man has to physically resist when a huge portion of their activism is about telling men that they can't physically resist when a woman is violent and that they can't touch or lay a hand on a woman for any reason without that woman's consent. It's insane that they would argue. It's so hypocritical, it is beyond reason. It's just insane that they would argue that.
Oh yeah, and they also think I'm a misogynist for not liking the woman who did it. Oh, you're such a misogynist. Well, am I supposed to be warm towards someone who does something like that? Like,
misogyny
anyway.
is now not being proud of abhorrent behavior committed by women.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just whatever. I think we better move on to the next topic because this is a topic that I could talk on forever. The frustration. I do want to say that it's good to see that more men are speaking out because it really is an act of bravery to do that for men.
No, I challenge feminists to support the change that took place in Sweden there. I challenge feminists to support that in other countries. Support acknowledging and supporting the recovery of and justice for male victims of rape.
Yeah. And support
regardless of the perpetrator's sex.
No double standards. If you would consider it rape if a man did it to a woman, then it's rape if a woman does it to a man. And considering how few options men have for physical defense without being put in legal jeopardy, the fact that men, if they defend themselves, are put in legal jeopardy has to be considered as well. So there you go. Rachel, take it away.
Okay, I think I'm going to go and read Mad Cat's wonderful article here. Angelsoft Single Mothers for Father's Day. Father's Day is upon us, and it is a time to show appreciation for men who have helped raise their family. However, some feel it is important to remember single mothers on Father's Day. Now, a woman who raises children on her own should be commended. Equally, a man who raises children on their own should be commended. Guess which one should be honored on Father's Day? If you're feminist, you may guess wrong. Angelsoft, a maker of bath tissue, has released a commercial honoring single mothers for Father's Day. Shots of men and women talking about how their fathers were dead or gone, and how their mothers raised them alone, and how graceful they were doing it. Maybe Angelsoft didn't understand that Father's Day is a day celebrating men in their role as fathers. Instead, they would have us believe that a single female parent is both a mother and a father. She is she-male? While a single parent has many challenges, honoring women on Father's Day is basically telling the world that men are not needed for families. Studies have shown that children without fathers are at a dramatically greater risk of drug and alcohol abuse, mental illness, suicide, poor educational performance, teen pregnancy, and criminality. If anything, we need the world to accept men as fathers and as being fathers and active in their children's lives. Instead, we have feminism and now companies honoring women on days that are exclusively for men. Perhaps single moms, and by extension single dads, should be honored for what they do. Then we should give them their own day for appreciation and not hijack other days. Why hijack Father's Day and not Halloween or Christmas? But even if you have the argument that women have to act like fathers for their children they raise alone, why didn't Angelsoft honor single fathers on Mother's Day? Do you truly believe that feminists would have supported that?
Of course they wouldn't support that. It doesn't fit their ideology. This isn't really about supporting single mothers. It's actually a terrible, terrible insult to single mothers, and acting like they isolate their kids from men by being single mothers. This is about not allowing men to be honored for something that they do that is great. It is, and it is an insult to both sexes to have this ad in existence at all. The single mothers that I have known who have been great mothers have not isolated their children from men. They have not kept their children away from the fathers. And the few instances where I've known single mothers where the father has not wanted to be part of his children's lives, they've still encouraged the children to love their fathers and care about their fathers, and they have still included male mentors in their children's lives. The idea that single motherhood is supposed to be some kind of sacred cow of feminism, that is actually an attack on good qualities that women and men can have, and the ability of women and men to cooperate from each other or with each other. And this ad really makes me want to take out an ad on Mother's Day to honor all of the men out there who have made efforts to stay a part of their children's lives, all of the loving fathers who have fought tooth and nail to be part of their fathers' lives despite parental alienation on the part of the single mothers who have tried to boot them out of their children's lives. It would be just as reasonable, in fact more reasonable, to take out that kind of an ad than it is to treat single motherhood like it is some sort of I don't know, accomplishment and some sort of religious act, which is what feminism is trying to turn it into. This isn't about honoring anybody. It's about demonizing men, and it's ridiculous and shameful, and it shouldn't happen. And it's a good reason for me to quit buying their toilet paper.
For sure, that's all I had to say. Just a really quick point about how can you just imagine, why is nobody using the golden rule or the flip, however you want to call it, the gender flip on something like this? Can you imagine the backlash and the insult and the hurt feelings if you took out ads and whatever on Mother's Day saying that let's celebrate all the single fathers and against those deadbeat bitches that walked out on them? And how about we celebrate gay men who adopt children because they're better than single mothers anyway? Look at them providing a stable two-parent household for children. I mean, it's the exact same thing that they're doing to men, but because it's towards men, nobody cares. Nobody stops to think that, hey, these are people with feelings.
You know, it would be the exact same thing, except any company that did that would have to shut down. They would be so screwed. And you know what I find the funniest about this? I remember on Mother's Day, there were a bunch of letters that were written, and I read them on my Facebook timeline about two people who didn't have mothers on Mother's Day. a letter to an individual who grew up without a mother, and none of them ever mentioned the father. They just mentioned there's more powerful women in your life, sisters, female friends, female mentors, there's other powerful women. And I remember specifically reading this one, I was just trying to Google search it, but you don't see the mention of you've got a father there, you've got a father there watching you. It always has to be about the woman. And you're so right, you couldn't flip this, you couldn't, not in this culture right now, because we do have a culture that is far more focused on initiatives for women than it is for men.
Worst patriarchy ever.
Yeah, you guys really suck at making a patriarchy. Like, you're the worst.
All right, shall we move to the next one? Cue it up, Rachel.
Righto. Okay. Oh crap! I just closed the thingy. I know I had one job.
I can do it.
No. I know. I got this, Allison.
Oh my God, Rachel, you had one job. One job. It's okay.
All right, are you able to do your one job now? Okay, this is... All right, no, not both of you. Shut.
Wait, can I say something while Rachel's digging up the thing that she's digging up about Angels?
Well, I have it now. It's not about AngelSoft. It's just, it just took a second. Just saying.
It's the next news item, so no.
Yes. There you go. Ellen Powell loses discrimination case. Hello? Can people hear me? Oh my God.
No, don't worry, Rachel.
Yes,
I'm trying to clear the way for you. I'm trying to make the rest of them quiet, 'cause you just keep popping up like goddamn whack-a-mole.
Allison, why are you talking out of turn?
Okay, go ahead, Rachel.
All right, Ellen Powell loses discrimination case. Who didn't see this one coming? After a 4-week gender discrimination trial, Reddit CEO Ellen Powell will be expected to pay $76,000 in legal costs. Powell had alleged that her former employer, venture capital firm Clyde Perkins, had passed her for promotion based on gender and retaliated against her when she complained, resulting in her termination. She had been suing the firm for $16 million in damages, but her allegations couldn't have been farther from the truth. In reality, Ellen Powell had engaged in a messy, unprofessional affair with a coworker, was not particularly good at her job, and was generally disliked for her selfish, disrespectful, and negative attitude. After several lackluster work evaluations, she was terminated in 2012. Ellen Powell's allegations were not only found to be false, but the suit was found to be frivolous in nature, which led to the firm demanding that Powell pay a portion of the legal fees wasted on her bogus gender discrimination trial. It's kind of an interesting thing. There's a reason why they keep calling her like Chairman Powell. Like she's not really a very nice person. Like everything I start hearing about anyone who has worked with her, even when they have nice things to say, they're like, oh, there's still that one thing that's sort of off about her, and it's something that just keeps getting mentioned. It's not necessarily that she had the affair. It's just that she's
got a giant chip on her shoulder.
Yes.
Am I the only one? Am I the only one that's reminded of an old Demi Moore movie?
Which one?
I can't remember. I think it's called Disclosure. It's the one where she.
Yes, that would be it.
Oh yeah. No, that was the one where she. I was actually going to bring that up in the discussion of the Swedish rape services for men, where essentially she has all the power and she sexually harasses him, and then when he finally refuses to, he finally insists that he's not going to have sex with her anymore. She brings a sexual harassment lawsuit against him, even though she's his superior.
In reality, women have that power without, whether we are in a position of authority or not, we have that power by virtue of being the people whose opinion is considered and whose experiences are considered anytime there is a dispute on a sexual engagement of any kind. Men, if there's a dispute between a male and a female over sex and over consent, society in general, authorities in general, are going to take the woman's side simply because we're considered to be the gateholders, the gatekeepers of consent. And men are not considered to have the same right to refuse that we are considered to have. And because of that, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference whether the woman in question is in a position of authority or even in a subordinate position. If she has sexually harassed a man, she's got the power to force the same narrative on him, to turn it around on him no matter what. And that's I guess that's why this situation reminded me of that. It was just by being a woman, she had that capability, and she had the ability to stir the shit this much.
She claimed that they were sexist, and I, that term heterosexist, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to introduce a new term that suits this situation. Feminosexist. Okay? When you're feminosexist against somebody, you're not actually being sexist. You're just sick to death of hearing what a privileged fucking shitlord you are and how you're ruining her life because you're not being understanding enough and you're not giving her all the things she thinks she's entitled to because, hey, she says that you're a sexist. So when you say no to that woman and fire her, you're being feminosexist.
Well, yeah, this also goes back to something I've said previously, related to the whole slut shaming thing. This is an example of a woman using her sexuality to cover other dysfunction, other issues. She's making something about sex that isn't necessarily about sex. If she was not maybe doing her job the best, if she was not, if she was disrespectful, if she had a negative attitude at work, if her performance was crappy, those things, she wanted to make those irrelevant by claiming it was about sex when it wasn't. That's very, very typical, and it's very, very prevalent in our society, and it's far too easy for women to be able to do that. It's good to see that this was not, it didn't turn out the way she wanted it to. And hopefully that this will become more of a trend, that it will not just be automatically taken that if a woman can bring sex into it, that makes it about sex. That actually is a step towards equality. But here, prior to this point, we didn't have that benefit.
Well, even though she lost her case and everything like that, like, people are still plotting her, like, oh my gosh, we're so glad that you did this, that you brought these people forward even though you lost the case. I'm like,
oh yeah, she still brought these important issues to the forefront because we don't talk about them enough. And they need more attention. I'm sticking my fingers down my throat right now.
You know what's even worse than that, though? Is when people have fake cases of sexism and fake cases of racism, and people come out and say, oh, it was just raising awareness. I guess this was a fake case, too. Well, I guess that is a fake case.
Yeah.
It really is.
Oh my goodness. But, like, the ones that are, like, blatantly proven that the people set it up themselves, like, wrote racist messages on their wall, and it's, like, blatantly proven, and people still come out and say it was raising awareness, like, my God.
Yeah.
That's
been this way since Anita Hill, maybe before Anita Hill. But and the same thing was true with Anita Hill. The same thing happened. It was pretty much proved that she was being inventive, that she was taking things certain ways, and that she was, she had no case whatsoever. Extended hearings and everything. And
but she still had a Law and Order episode made after about her, and so it was all totally legit.
Feminists gave her awards. She has been held up as a pioneer in the fight against sexual harassment on the job, and this is no different. In fact, nothing has changed with the feminist attitude and the societal outlook on this, in that even when a woman is proved to have, pulled shit, basically, even when society or at least authority calls shenanigans and backs up that accusation, you still are going to have feminists and women who are less informed laymen that are going to laud the case as some sort of, some sort of watershed moment. Oh, this poor woman. And as far as I'm concerned, this is pretty much evidence that feminism is just absolute shit. It doesn't have anything to do with rights. It doesn't have anything to do with reality. It's all about the victim narrative and all about using women's sexuality as a tool.
Yeah, well, so like I stand with Jackie didn't clinch it for you, like that's
You
what
still
really
know
got
that
me.
hope?
Or there's no perfect victim.
Do we really need any more evidence?
No, it's just more evidence, and it's just another piece of. We could have a giant wall of evidence. Every new story like this is just another piece.
Yeah,
It's
let's move
just
on
another.
though.
Okay.
We got to keep the outrage train rolling.
Oh gosh, Allison, why do you call it the outrage train? Okay, and in the real world, we have interesting stories like this. This is more on the short end, but it's kind of relevant. I would imagine. 10-year-old boy accused of adultery with 30-year-old woman. A tribal court in southern Pakistan convicted a 10-year-old boy of adultery with a married woman aged 30. He has been asked to pay the U.S. equivalent of $7,000, which the boy's family paid up front. Such tribal court trials are illegal, and local authorities are now looking into the matter. Under Pakistani law, it is statutory rape for an adult male to have sex with a child, but the reverse is not illegal. If found guilty, the woman could be found convicted of sexual assault or unnatural sexual acts. So here's a weird situation. It's not statutory rape if a woman has sex with a young boy. But if it's found that she assaulted him, then that would be illegal. But if it's consensual, totally not statutory rape.
Okay, but
How the hell can it be consensual if he's 10 years old?
I know, and the fact that they were like, "Oh, it's adultery."
Yeah, no, well, but just give me one second, because I know that a lot of people really, really, really like to vilify Islamic communities for the way they often try women who have claimed they've been raped as if they are guilty of adultery. There is no law in Muslim countries that say that women who are proven to have been raped should be punished for that. No, what it is that these women claimed that they were raped, but it was found instead that they committed adultery, and that's what they're being punished for. So I can completely see how this particular case in Pakistan, they would find that this 10-year-old boy was guilty of adultery, even though he was raped. I mean, this is just the reversal of what typically happens when you can't prove that you didn't consent.
Well, here's
That's all it is.
The situation here is that there's a big difference here. The local authorities recognize the idea that young boys can be raped, whereas tribal courts, which are totally illegal, it's something that is an informal court that a community holds.
It's more traditional.
And those kinds of courts don't necessarily recognize boys as being raped in that situation, but they certainly recognize girls as being raped in that situation.
Yeah, look at this. They're treating a 10-year-old boy like he has more responsibility, more agency in that situation than the adult woman. He's not considered a child there.
This is true. I mean, but here's why in Islamic courts, a woman, you need 2 women's testimony to counter one man's testimony. Is number one, because women are held to a lower level of responsibility than males are, and number 2, I think, to my mind, particularly in cases involving sex and sexuality and men and women are more likely to be believed, right? Just even if they're lying, they're more likely to be believed. And so you have all of these you have to look at the context of the entire culture, right? And the level of responsibility that's placed on both men and women. And in that case, yes, a 10-year-old boy, is considered to be more responsible and accountable than a 30-year-old woman. Well, that's the case when you look at, the gender sentencing gap for crimes in those countries is like 100 times bigger than it is here. A man would get 20 years, a woman will get 5. A man will serve hard time, no visitation. A woman will serve her sentence in a community center with her kids around her, right? This is how those cultures operate.
Okay, but here's a complexity here. Is it really that different when young boys who have been statutory raped are required to pay child support to the person who raped them?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. It's not any different. I'm just saying, we go on, our culture goes on and on and on about how misogynist those cultures are, right? And how they trample the rights of women. But at the same time, there's a price that men and boys pay for that, and that price is a level of accountability that we wouldn't dream of putting on a grown woman, let alone a 10-year-old girl.
This is basically the sacrifice of the welfare of a child for the protection of an adult woman. And yeah,
the
that
welfare
happens
of a boy. The welfare of a boy, because you wouldn't see the welfare of a girl being sacrificed for that.
But this is the sacrifice of a welfare of a child because he is a boy for the welfare of an adult woman. And in the United States, there has been, I think, at least one case in which an 11-year-old boy was forced to pay child support, or rather his parents were forced to pay child support to his rapist. So this is a worldwide thing.
The 14-year-old boy who, the moment he turned 18, his rapist got out of prison, right? Managed to get custody back from her sister of the baby, and then went on welfare, and the state hit him at age 18 with 4 years of back child support.
Yeah, and in fact, I ended up writing to legislators in Ohio about that a couple of years ago, and since then there has been a law passed to address that. It was discussed in Reddit not too long ago, actually. And it specifically addresses custody. If you're convicted of statutory rape or convicted of rape in Ohio, and you can't get custody of a child conceived from that rape.
Well, see, and I don't necessarily think that's I don't like the idea of blanket laws like that. If feminists go on and on about how in 31 states rapists can seek, are legally entitled to seek custody of the children created from their rapes. Well, if that was not the case, then Vladik Filler would not have custody of his children. His children would be in the custody of Lygia or the foster care system.
This is a law that relies on conviction, and conviction.
He was convicted. He was initially convicted.
Did he appeal his conviction?
He did, and he was acquitted on appeal.
Right.
But
and I think that works. That's fine. But I don't think that we should leave the law open to allowing a convicted rapist custody of the child.
Okay, guys.
Because of the rare occasion that we will prevent a wrongfully convicted person from having custody of a child. I think that in the majority of cases where a person is convicted of rape and then would seek custody of the child, it would be far better for the appeals process to go through than it would.
I think we should judge these cases on a case-by-case basis. I absolutely do.
That the law does not prevent that. What the law does is prevent things like the woman who raped an 11-year-old from having custody, from maintaining custody of the conceived child and going after the 11-year-old for child support.
She should have to apply in court to get custody. Honestly, this is one of the things that drives me crazy, is because a female statutory rapist she has automatic custody, particularly if she didn't get convicted and didn't have custody of the child taken from her when she was convicted and imprisoned.
Well, and I gotta ask
she,
more about Vladek Filler's case, because I'm not incredibly familiar with this case. Was the rape in question, or the accused rape in question, the specific case said that the children he was asking custody for were all conceived by rape?
No, they were not
Okay,
conceived
then
by rape.
the law in Ohio wouldn't, the change of law in Ohio wouldn't have affected him.
Okay, guys.
Okay, well that's okay
guys,
then.
we need to move back on to the topic. This is an interesting digression. I would suggest that the best way to approach this would be to give men more reproductive control overall, so that if they are raped, they still have the option of walking away, because a man who isn't raped has the option of not taking part in raising a child that he
I think
didn't
they should
consent
also
to.
be entitled to legal aid, a free lawyer, because if you have to go to court to assert your parental rights, which is what this boy who was raped at 14 and who's paying child support out of his paper route, right? He actually has to pay to go to court to get any kind of access or rights to that child that the criminal courts and the welfare system and the DNA tests and everything, all of those things say that's his child, but he has no rights to that child until a judge decides to give him rights.
Okay, I think we can bring it all back to the
This
final topic.
Could make a show in and of itself, and we probably
and you know, I think we'll segue really nicely into the final topic.
Well, I actually wanted to just say one thing that ties it all together. I think that at the end of the day, we're all the cultures, Pakistan and North America, are just dumb on the issue of boys being raped by women, and they have ridiculous double standards when it comes to it. And we all fail. We all, you know what, men, if you're listening here,
F's all around.
F's on patriarchy all around. You really suck at being patriarchs. Okay, go ahead, Rachel.
Okay. Teen has to register as sex offender after consensual sex.
Oh, God.
Yes, I know. 19-year-old Zach Anderson must register as a sex offender for 25 years and serve 90 days in jail after meeting a girl online for sex. He believed the girl to be 17, but as it turned out, she was 14 and lied about her age in hopes that he would sleep with her. The girl's parents outright asked that the case be dropped, stating that the boy didn't do anything to their daughter, that their daughter didn't do. But the state didn't drop the case, and now Zach Anderson will have to register as a sex offender, serve 90 days in jail, and cannot live in a home that has internet access or a smartphone for 5 years. In addition to this, he is forbidden from speaking to anyone under the age of 17, with the exception of his younger brothers. Currently, only 20 out of our 50 states consider lies about one's age to be admissible in court, meaning that men might need to start asking for ID before beginning a sexual encounter.
You know, there are some states out there where even if you see, okay, here's the thing. You meet her in a bar, right? Only over 21s allowed in that bar, right? You watched the bouncer ID her. You asked her for ID. President Obama is her uncle, and President Obama says, oh yeah, this is my niece, she's like 23, right? You have sex with her, find out she's underage, afterwards, you're still guilty, right? You're still guilty because it's strict liability in a number of states. Still, it does not matter how much she lied. It does not matter whether there was, whether no person could reasonably ascertain that she was lying. Does not matter, right? It's strict liability. Oh, you bumped into somebody and they fell down on the subway tracks, you're guilty of murder.
You know, here in
the
US, we have a very serious issue here in the U.S. with our treatment of teenagers as adults, in which we determine whether or not we treat a teenager as an adult based on our approval or disapproval of the behavior the teenager exhibits. This is ridiculous. We have a situation where we've tried young teenagers as adults because we've decided that their criminal acts are too reprehensible And we've treated teenagers as adults because a child was conceived, and we want to hold them responsible for that. We've treated teenagers as adults in reference to debts and things like that. And yet we turn around, and when a girl lies about her age on internet in order to actually trap a guy into having sex with her against his will, because you think about it, this guy would not have consented had she told
He did
the
not
truth.
give his informed consent.
So basically, this girl violated this guy's right to informed consent, a right that feminists would claim would make the action a rape if the sexes were reversed. And yet he's being held responsible, and she's allowed to get away with committing fraud in order to create a criminal. In
Rape
order
by
to
deceit is
criminalize
what
the
she...
guy. Yeah, she's not held responsible for her actions. And I don't care if she was 12. If she was a guy and she had done something like this, she'd have been held responsible. If she was 12 and she had shot somebody and ruined their life that way, shot somebody in the back and paralyzed him for life, she'd be tried as an adult. He'd be tried as an adult. I think that she can if she's going to start taking adult responsibility and demanding adult privileges, then she can damn well be considered an adult for purposes of determining whether or not this guy did anything wrong.
Well, that's what's it's crazy, the hypocrisy, because the whole feminist movement and the whole thing that's been coming up now is, should lying to get sex be considered rape? And of course they only consider it from the narrative of a guy lying to a girl. So even just things like lying about what college you're going to or what your job is or anything, people want to consider that as rape if you just lie about your career.
I would have only have slept with him I would never have slept with him if I didn't know he wasn't rich.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this one, he's getting in trouble because she lied to him. Like, wouldn't that be considered her raping him based on the feminist narrative? But of course you can't apply it that way because God knows their logic doesn't make sense.
Reasons.
Because reasons, exactly.
Because patriarchy.
I got one more real quick thing to say because I know I'm going to get shit for bringing up 12. I looked 30 when I was 12, and I was mistaken for 30 when I was 12. And when I acknowledged my real age, guys ran. It's not a rare thing. So
yeah, I looked older than I was when I was 15, and there was the one guy that I wanted to lose my virginity to, and I essentially said, well, I'm a virgin, so just be prepared if I'm not that good at this. And he asked me how old I was, and I was 15, and he was, I think, 19. And he was like, yeah, no way. No way. And yeah, it was like there was no way he was going to do that once I was honest about my age and the fact that I'd never had sex before. That, if I regretted it, what kind of trouble would he be in? Right? So, and that never occurred to me when I was 15 and suggesting to him that, this is I want to do that. I want to, go the whole 9 yards, the whole, all the bases, everything, right? Let's do it.
All your bases are belong to us.
It never occurred to me that he could get in trouble for that.
Yeah. Well, I think this is really overkill, even on the part of law enforcement, of the judge. Like, this is ridiculous. In every aspect of this is ridiculous.
No, it's like, okay, how many days? 90 days?
Yes. 90 days, 25 years of
90 days I can see. 90 days I can see.
Yeah, but
right? Serving 90 days.
But he has to register as a
25 fucking years on the sex offender registry, and the 5 years not having internet access or a smartphone?
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking kidding me? That's essentially saying you cannot live life for 20.
And you can't talk to anybody under the age of 17. So if you want to work at McDonald's, you're fucked.
Oh yeah, no, it's like he can't work anywhere. Anywhere.
Yeah.
He can't work at the Gap. He can't work at fucking EA Games. He can't work at the fucking DMB.
Yeah.
He can't work anywhere. Right? Because he can't work at a freaking fertility clinic. You know, because as a receptionist, because some people bring their kids in, you know, and the kid might be like, "Oh, do you have any lollipops?" And then he'd have to talk to them. Right?
Yeah,
like he can't work anywhere.
This whole situation blows my mind.
Oh, sorry. Continue.
Sorry. When I was a kid, there were two situations actually in which my father impressed the same thing on me. That had to do with like the drinking and smoking underage and sex underage, and he basically said, you know, if you're with people who are overage when you're underage and you care about those people and you really like those people, don't do illegal things with them because I'll send them to jail. Don't have sex with an overage guy. Don't accept alcohol from somebody who's an adult when you're underage. Don't let somebody give you cigarettes because if you really like those people and you don't want them to go to jail, if you care about them, you'll take responsibility to make sure you don't put them in jeopardy.
Okay,
I was told that when I was a kid.
Yeah, let
Lauren speak.
Yes. Hashtag let Lauren speak.
Oh, sorry, the patriarchy is holding me back.
You kind of sometimes have to like really shove your way in with us. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
guys.
not even men. Like, what is this?
You gotta shove your way into the space, Lauren.
It's the reality of
Just
life.
like thrust your tab A into our slot B and get it over with.
All right, quiet you.
Well, I was just gonna say, it's like these people don't even recognize that they are ruining someone's life. Because if anyone had to experience what this individual was going through, had they done the same act, they would never do that to anyone else, ever. Like, I feel like people who create these laws, people who agree with these laws, should have to at least imagine experiencing living like that, experiencing living like a sex offender, experiencing living with that stigma around you, never having technology for 5 years. Like, if you just tried to imagine that for a second, you wouldn't want that to happen to anyone, especially in this case.
It's for the greater good.
Oh, God.
Oh, you know what gets me too is that sex offender registries have consistently failed to demonstrate any decrease in recidivism, right?
Yep.
At all. They've consistently failed to do that. And when you actually look at some of the conditions that are placed on people who are sex offenders in certain states in the U.S., right? So, you know, you have mandatory counseling every month. You have to pay for that out of your own pocket, right? You know, like the cost, the financial cost of being a sex offender and complying with the conditions that are placed on you is like conservative estimates, $10,000 a year, right? Just to pay for the counseling that you have to do, and you know they have people who monitor you, who essentially you have to phone and say, you know, oh, I'm leaving my house now and going to the store, and then from the store you have to phone and say, oh, okay, I'm at the store and now I'm going to work, and then you phone from work and say I'm at work and I'm going to be here for the next 8 hours, and then you phone and say I'm leaving work and I'm going home, and there's somebody who's been hired by the state to periodically go and check to make sure you're where you said you are, and you have to pay for that person out of your own fucking pocket.
I want
That's
to point
what it's
something
like
out
in the
real
US.
quick. Karen, it not only is that cost a problem, they will, if you are unable to pay because you don't earn enough money, because I'm not going to mention the name, but I know somebody who's disabled and under that circumstance, and his inability to pay has been used in the past to deny him other, I said privileges in the chat, but it's rights, other rights, like not even the ability to visit other members of his family. He's been kept almost on house arrest because of that.
It's a really
because
unfortunate
you can't
situation,
pay
and
for
people
somebody
can't
to follow
actually
around.
get off of the offender reserve. They essentially become criminals for life.
Yeah,
But it is time, and I am turning the tap off
Now
now.
is the time.
Now is the time to say our goodnights. I wanted to give Lauren the last opportunity to say any final words before we complete for the evening.
Oh man,
Go ahead, Lauren.
I'm gonna have to be super cheesy. The cheese is about to come out. I think you're all fantastic people, and I'm so damn encouraged that there are more women who are standing up for men and real equality. And I think that this whole thing is encouraging to men who have experienced false accusations, who aren't being treated properly in workplaces, who aren't being hired for jobs, who just have been mistreated, and that you guys are really actually for investigating this stuff. I meet so many people in my life, especially being in university, that just do not care at all about looking into these issues and just follow the narrative. And I think you're all total badasses for doing this.
Well, thank you.
God. Badasses. You're the one who stood there with the sign. I'm surprised it didn't pelt you with freaking rotten tomatoes or bricks or freaking boulders or...
I'm sure if they had them available. But you guys are going to have to join me next year at the Slutwalk, please.
Come to Edmonton and join us for the Edmonton Slutwalk next year. I don't think we did anything this year, but I'm sure we'll be doing something next year.
Oh, when it comes up, I would be totally down.
And there's a couch for you to sleep on and everything, and it'd be awesome, and we could go out and get all hammered and swap war stories and stuff like that.
Fantastic, I love it.
Sounds like a plan. Of course, we are going to meet up with you in British Columbia, in Vancouver, for the GG and BC meetup. That's, I believe, 15 days now. Is anybody listening and you're around that area, be sure to come up. Meet us all and
that day off work.
Yeah, you should be taking a lot of those days off work there.
Yeah, no, I just have to let them know. They're very good about giving me time off, even on short notice.
So let's do the shilling. First of all, I've created a new vote community. That's voat.co, and you can just do a search on Honey Badgers Radio or Honey Badger Radio on Vote, and you can find our new community. I want to support Vote because they are starting right out of the gate. They're against censorship, so less Chairman Mao, more free speech, and I think we should all support that and give them our time.
Chairman Mao, Allison, you had one job.
Oh, what? So did you. I had to screw up.
I know.
One job, Allison. You had one fucking job.
Well, technically, her job is to misspell names and mispronounce names.
I love you, Allison.
She's on it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. So anyway,
Okay, just smack him with the shoulder, Allison. It's okay.
Yes. Well, I would if you guys would shut the hell up. All right. So please do go to vote.co and create a membership and support them financially because they deserve it. And join our community, and we'll chat with you in the community and have fun because we've got a couple. Hannah's a moderator now. Rachel hasn't accepted my request for her to become a moderator.
I don't know how to accept it, Allison. You didn't tell me how I need to accept it.
You go to the place that says administration tools and you say I accept, and
okay.
There you go.
All right.
So anyway, we're there.
It from your mailbox too.
We're there. And if you want to talk to us, you can come there, and you can support a new community that's right out of the gate against censorship, as opposed to whatever's going on in Reddit now. And if you have an interesting topic that you want us to discuss on the show, then just send that to topic@badgerpod.com. That's topic@badgerpod.com. And you can also send your comments about the show to topic@badgerpod.com. If you keep it brief and you have paragraphs, I will read it.
Use the space bar. Use the enter key.
Use the enter key. It doesn't give you
paragraph breaks are important.
So
walls of text are difficult.
No, walls of text will not be read, period. So topic@badgerpod.com. And you consider, if you enjoy what you're hearing here, consider telling your friends. And if you have a particularly amusing story about somebody who came up to you and said, I've never heard anybody who has an interest in the things that you have an interest in, and have you heard about Honey Badger? Send us those stories too, because it's great. It gives us a great feeling of warmth in our cockles, wherever the cockles region is.
That's
the subcockle region.
Yeah, the subcockle region is very warmed by that.
Somewhere in our testicles, we feel.
That's a great word, isn't it?
Okay, shush. All right. And then also, if you wanted to get more information, or if you want to help Brian and Rachel get to Vancouver, and you're somewhere along the route between Myrtle Beach and Vancouver, with deking up into Canada around Minneapolis, then drop us a line at roadtrip@badgerpod.com. And
I can help out too.
Yes. And they probably would love either if you have a couch for them to clash on, or two couches, considering there are two of them, and maybe some food. They would really appreciate you, and you might never be able to get rid of them. So that is roadtrip@badgerpod.com.
It's going to be my birthday, too. It's going to be my birthday on the 25th.
Yep, and it's also going to be Rachel's birthday. And finally, if you want to see Hannah come up to Gamergate in BC, consider donating at honeybadgersradio@gmail.com. Please indicate what you're donating for so it can go to her. And finally, if you really enjoy what we have to say and the fact that we promote a lack of, not censorship, less censorship, more free speech, less censorship, and we talk about things that nobody else wants to talk about, probably with good reason, because people don't like you when you talk about these things, which is not a reason to talk about it, but I think they're very valid in and of themselves, and I'm pretty much talking myself into a corner here. But anyway, if you like listening to us and you want to support us in creating new content, please become a patron at patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. We cannot do this without you, seriously, and we really appreciate it if you do help us out to continue this. And once again, that's www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. And I guess that's it. So good night, and God bless.